Um, okay, so it's Craig and David, and we're in EuroAsia Scrum, and let's see. Would you like to go first, Craig?
Yeah, I've been working on features, writing cucumber features for stuff that's already been implemented on the Osra project. We've hit a small stumbling block in that delete functionality in Rails uses JavaScript pop-ups, and for that, when you're doing testing in Capybara, you need a headless WebDriver that's not the standard Capybara one, because the Capybara one doesn't support JavaScript. Um, so we've settled on the best possibilities being Phantom.js and Capybara WebKit,
Mm-hmm.
each with strengths and weaknesses. So I've put a proposition together and put it on the Agile Ventures website for people to have a look at.
Right.
Um, and that's kind of blocking me a little bit now because I can't write any delete testing functionality until we've settled on one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I think the consensus of opinion at the moment is to use two, possibly. Oh, Yarrow suggested Selenium as well. Um, and use the problem with the Phantom.js is very quick, but only tests the happy path of JavaScript pop-ups. It doesn't interact with the JavaScript pop-up. It just accepts it and carries on.
Ah,
Whereas the others, you can either choose to cancel or choose to accept. So some people are suggesting having two and using Phantom where possible
mm-hmm.
because it's quick for the majority of tests, and then falling back on another one with an annotation to use that driver in the feature file for cases where you need to do something a little bit more complicated.
Oh, right. I'll
I
make
don't,
some comments later on that then. I've got it.
I would really, really appreciate comments on this because the Capybara WebKit installs a whole raft of Qt dependencies, which I'm not really happy about. If you're compiling it on the Mac, it seems to take hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using stock Ubuntu, I know it's just packages, but there's a lot of them. If you may as well be using Kubuntu. Um, I don't know.
Yes.
It seems a lot for me. But then, if Phantom.js didn't just test the happy path, it would be a done deal as I was concerned. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, any feedback would be greatly appreciated on that.
Okay. Good. I have the only uh, Agile Ventures stuff that I've related stuff that I've done over the weekend is I've hung out in Stack Exchange a little bit and I learned a bit more about Ruby format strings. Um, um, so I'll maybe paste the link to the Stack Exchange question that I was looking at. I ended up just sort of testing somebody else's answer and commenting on it because the answer was really great. Oh, there were two answers and they were great and interesting. Things that I didn't know you could do with fixed format text, fixed width text. Um, that could prove very useful when you want to just print something out in a kind of standard file format to import into other applications.
Ah.
When you can't use JSON, you need to be able to print nicely. So right, so I'll post that later.
Yeah.
And only plans otherwise is to run this Scrum again tomorrow, same time tomorrow. Actually, earlier tomorrow at 6:30 rather than 6:45 or 6:50, which is when we started today because
Yeah.
too busy too busy talking about related things. Um, and I can't think why we got onto that because I was talking about C, which is a whole different kettle of fish from Racket and Scheme. Ah, yeah, we talked about Emacs. That's right.
Yes.
And that was
The root of all evil.
That was the dangerous word that got us right off topic.
Yeah.
But onto some useful things for software engineering, actually. So, Poltergeist and Phantom.js. I have not. I think maybe you've pasted the wrong link in here. But
I have. I'll go and fix that.
Is Poltergeist a new name for Phantom.js?
I think Phantom.js is the library. Poltergeist is the gem that piggybacks and sorts that all out for Capybara. If that makes sense.
Right. So yeah, kind of the glue layer.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you can look at is local support uses Capybara WebKit. So you can watch it installing. We've got scripted installer, and it takes ages on my old Mac. It takes up to half an hour on this newer laptop with Ubuntu. But first of all, I has to download all of KDE, as you said.
Yeah.
And is it not yeah, then it has to download a web browser, which I can't remember what it is, but it's a headless web browser. Then it's big, and it's quite slow when you're running features. But I don't know if Phantom.js is slower or faster.
It seems to be faster. The other thing as well is, a lot of us have quite quick machines, and it's, I have a reasonably beefy machine, so although it's frustrating that I've got to wait for it to compile if I'm doing it on a machine where it needs compilation, it's not the end of the world. But we've got people joining that have maybe, Windows machines with 2 gig of RAM. I was speaking to someone on the channels the other day, and then they're trying to run Vagrant inside of that, and it's not much fun when, before you can even start helping the community and getting involved, you've got this big, daunting task ahead of you. So, I mean, if that's what we've got to use, then that's what we've got to use. I don't want to shy away from it, but I think we need to be aware of how much overhead it creates for new people to get involved, if that's what we decide we want to implement.
What we have got on some of our scenarios is we have annotations, so they load Capybara WebKit just for those annotations. So that's what we've got in local support. And as far as I understand, website 1 goes the other way and uses Phantom.js. I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, I think that in their gem file, I think they've got everything. So I think they started with Capybara WebKit, then they've settled on Phantom. I think because of the annotations, you can actually have more than one.
Yeah, what I was going to say was really the same fear that you had. You've got this big virtual machine to install and configure, and it gets even bigger if you've got to do both.
Yeah.
With these JS thingies.
So I'd rather avoid the website 1 kind of approach if possible. But I mean, if that's
the other.
If that has to be the case, then obviously it has to be the case.
And the only other thing I was going to ask is I know it's a blocker for JS pop-ups, but is there a kind of RESTful route that you can test just to say we're going to delete something? We don't need to test the UI for it yet, but let's just test the RESTful route.
That's a good idea. I'll have a look at that at some point today.
Because that may run a bit faster as well, so it might be useful to have in the toolkit anyway.
Yeah.
Just for kind of quick test when you don't want to fire up you don't want to wait for the whole headless JavaScript thing to load. So just a thought. I don't even know if it is that much faster to run without, but it may just be faster to write the test in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's all.
I mean, I've installed both of those on the machine, and I've written a test with either that passes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I can't obviously make a pull request or anything until we've decided what we want to do.
Yes, of course you can. Yeah, so it's definitely a blocker that way. Yeah, it holds a lot of things up then. All right.
Patrick,
Okay, thanks.
thank you. See you tomorrow.